Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 7:39 a.m. East Coast time, Friday, July 5th. I hope you all had a great, wonderful, healthy, fun, whatever, July 4th. And yeah, July 4th weekend is now here. Hope the weekend warriors are getting through the day today, or maybe you have off. So either way, 4-game WNBA slate. The MLB video is already up today. Projections for the WNBA 4-game slate, really healthy size slate, $10,000 prize pool to first, as well as lots of upside and cash games today to be different with so many different players on the slate. I have projections linked down below, and yes, I will be updating them throughout the day. There's a couple of quirky things today, a couple of really impactful things that not a lot of people, if you don't follow WNBA news, will know or know how to deal with. So I'm here to break that down for you really quickly, 15-minute digestible video. Let's start with the injury news, but right before we do that, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the channel. My name's Sal Vetri. I cover daily fantasy sports in the NFL, NBA, which is now done, the MLB, which I already have a video up, WNBA, which you're seeing now. Cannot wait for the NFL. But if you could hit me with a like button, this is sort of the slow time of the season. If you could really, I appreciate it, hit me with a subscribe button. It takes no time at all out of your hands, 2 seconds, it's free, and it allows me to keep doing this and providing this content for free and third parties potentially paying me. So that's what I'm trying to build up here, some momentum. So thank you so much. Let's get right into it. I'll cover this stuff quickly because I got some things to do. July 4th weekend, right? So Jewel Lloyd today, she's going to be out once again. This is going to continue to impact Sammy Whitcomb, who's been seeing 30 minutes a game over the last 2 to 3 games that Jewel Lloyd has been out, and Jordan Canada, who has now been just pretty much the starting point guard, and where a lot of that production from Lloyd has fallen onto. They're trying to volley for Jordan Canada to get into the All-Star game. This team has played like 12 games, 11 games this year. She was injured for half of them, and now they want her in the All-Star game. This league is just ridiculous. When there's 30 games, you have to start hyping by like game 5. It's crazy. But that's where the interest starts today, and the impact really. Sammy Whitcomb and Jordan Canada with Jewel Lloyd out, as well as Natasha Howard getting a production boost once again. Diana Taurasi. This was the spot that she was supposed to come back. She's targeting this spot home versus New York. It is the worst time for her to come back in terms of fantasy, because this is the best matchup for guards. New York is last in the league in terms of giving up fantasy points to guards. And now you have Wnba, who's been balling out there, playing 34 minutes a game. You have Lana Mitchell, Essence Carson's, all these guards, even Brianne January, getting tons of minutes, and Lana Mitchell being very productive with those minutes, Essence Carson's as well to an extent. And now here comes Diana Taurasi, going to jump into Phoenix and really just ruin all the fun. I have no idea. She's going to be probable. She's listed active and ready to go. I have no idea how many minutes she plays. She was one of the best fantasy point per minute producers in the entire league last year, and probably the best point guard overall in fantasy. And now she's going to come in to where the best point guard in fantasy in Wnba has been this year. Lalana Mitchell, who's been an absolute stud the last 2 weeks of the year. I really don't know, with Yvonne Turner out, I really don't know what's going to happen here. I have Diana Taurasi if she plays. If she starts, I have her in for like high 20s in minutes. If she plays and it's listed that she's active, I have her in for around 24, 25 minutes, because she has been taking so much time off. She has been conditioning, slowly getting into contact drills and practice, so it's going to be a guessing game. Keep an eye on my Twitter, at SalVetriDFS. You should be following me regardless of if you've been just new to me or not. If you've been watching these videos, go follow me on Twitter, at SalVetriDFS. I have a list over there that gives you all the injury news updates before lock. You can follow that list, set notifications for wherever you like. But yeah, it's going to mess up a lot here. It's going to affect Wnba. It will affect Brittany Griner in terms of offensive production, for sure. Based on the price points that she's at, she's probably not worth that price point anymore. It will affect Lana Mitchell, whose price just plummeted and probably too much. It'll affect Brianne January, Essence Carson's. All these players are going to get affected, and I really can't tell you how it's going to happen. I'm just sad that it's happening today, because New York is the easiest matchup for guards, and your DeWanna Bonners would have been a fantastic play. She might still be, but still, it's not as clear. Your Lalana Mitchell's would have been this lock play of the slate. So keep an eye on if Taurasi is out. Those plays in Bonner and Mitchell become 2 of my favorite on the slate. Ozura Stevens is going to be out today. This is going to help Isabel Harrison and Tiara McCown, who have been sort of fighting for playing time in the last game, with Stevens being limited/out. Those 2 players were able to get both above 26 minutes, and they've been kind of cutting into each other's minutes. But now with Stevens out, another forward gone, Isabel Harrison and Tiara McCown, who have decent matchups today, good matchups today, both should see the court. Alex Bentley came back in the last games. This will hurt Renee Montgomery. This will hurt Sykes out there. It's going to hurt all the other guards, with Alex Bentley, whose price point is now just priced up to a ridiculous spot, already the second highest on this Atlanta team. I think she's a really good player, but not that quickly to 7,700. I guess 7,000 would have been fair, but it seems a little overpriced. That's where we're at with injury news. Lots to tackle, as you can see. If you want to get the projections and see how this all impacts the slate in terms of fantasy points and how I'm projecting that, it's linked down below. I use an algorithm taking into account minutes, the pace, the Vegas totals, differentials from totals to the season point per game differentials from pace through the season, pace per games for those teams, defensive matchups, all these different things. Target offense sheet. Again, I project these totals. They're probably going to be ridiculously off because I'm doing them quick in the morning, and the only reason I project them is just so my projections populate, because I do need the totals as like one piece of the 8 or 9 things I use to get those projections to populate. And again, it's like the smallest piece, but I do need it, otherwise it pops up an error, and I change these things as the day goes on. You can see here the most attractive game is Washington and Las Vegas, a pace-up spot for both of them. It's going to feature 82 possessions, which is 5 more, or about 5 more than any other team on the slate. It's over 10 more than Indy and Dallas is going to feature. Probably the slowest game you'll see this year is Indiana and Dallas, the 2 slowest paced teams in the league, facing each other. It's going to be a very slow game. Washington and Las Vegas. Washington plays at a faster pace, and Las Vegas plays at the fastest pace. So you're going to see a very big pace-up spot for both teams, especially Washington here. This is the game that you want to target. I imagine both these teams average in the mid to upper 80s in points per game. Las Vegas being more inefficient, but they have a higher pace, so they just get more attempts at it. I imagine this is the spot where you're going to see the highest point total by potentially 20 points today once these Vegas lines come out. I would be targeting Washington and Las Vegas, trying to stack it up, get 4 players in there. If a player is usually a little bit worse than another player on another team in this game, the fact that there's going to be like an extra 10 possessions and 20 points in terms of real points, which means like 50 extra fantasy points to go around, it means that I want to get to Washington and Las Vegas much more than anywhere else in the slate. I do think there's value in Seattle with the guards like Jordan Canada, although her price is coming up, and Sammy Whitcomb, although her price is coming up. I do think that there's other value spots in Phoenix, potentially, if Diana Taurasi does not play once again today. Lalana Mitchell is probably the best play on the slate at 4,400. Her price plummeted, and she's been playing really well. The fact, though, that Diana Taurasi might come back should probably cut Lalana Mitchell's minutes in like a third, she should lose about a third of her minutes. Dallas and Indiana, there's some pieces, but nothing major there. Phoenix and New York, there are still some values. I don't know why Rashawn Gray's price is still broken. Let's get into all that. In terms of stacking a game, yeah, Washington and Las Vegas, I do have interest in stacking. Maybe not 5 players from the game, but I do have interest in getting to 4 players in that game if necessary. I think there's a couple of options on either side that you can get to. Not sure if I get to 4, though, but I do have a lot of interest in trying to, depending on how the salaries shape out. These players are going to be priced up because they're in that game, so keep that in mind as well. So my early interest, these are not my projections. You can see I have the projection points, value, and point per minute covered. These are not the projections, though, the way that the layout is. I'm not going to show those because I haven't blacked out the projections, but you can get them down below if you have interest in that. Like I said, I factor in a bunch of different things, and you can support me over on Patreon by doing so. And if you were double charged on Patreon, because they charge at the beginning of the month and up front, so if you bought on like June 27th, you got charged up front, and then for some reason they charge at the beginning of the month, I don't have an option for that, but just keep reaching out. 2 people that did reach out, I refunded everybody else. The 2 people that are still waiting to be refunded, your previous orders are still processing on my end, and then I can refund you, so no problems there. Let's just factor this by salary, and these are going to be a product of my projections in terms of where I find some value, where I find some really nice point spots. So Ilana Deladon, she's probably my favorite play in the slate because she's in that pace-up game. She's been absolutely fantastic on the year, and this is a very beneficial matchup versus Las Vegas because there's extra paces or there's extra pace. They give up more points per game to the position because there's more pace in the games that they usually play in. So Deladon's probably my favorite play in the upper range at 11,000. Shouldn't surprise anybody really. Dorana Bonner, she's in yellow because if Dorana Taurasi is in, I'm not paying $10,800 for a player in Dorana Taurasi who is going to be cutting into her production and minutes a big amount. If Taurasi is out, I'm going to have a lot of interest against the Knicks, who are the worst against the guard. Natasha Howard, 10-4. I always have interest in Natasha Howard. She's a 35 floor type fantasy player, and now she gets a matchup against Atlanta that should just allow her to dominate even more. Still no Drew Lloyd, so there's going to be a production loss there that probably has to fall on Howard's shoulders a little bit. So Deladon and Howard would be the 2 studs that I'm probably going to stack more so than others. Liz Cambridge, I said it again. If she sees over 30 minutes, she'll probably touch 40 fantasy points. She saw like 39.5 or 39.75 fantasy points in the last game when she saw 32. Have her projected for 30 today. Have her projected for right around 38, 39 fantasy points. I still prefer Natasha Howard and Ilana Deladon just because they're not splitting production with an Aja Wilson, which is a lot of production to be split potentially. But I still do like Liz Cambridge. Deanna Taurasi I have in red because I'm not playing her even if she starts. At 9,700 coming off an injury, hasn't been in full competition in a while, and you're paying top dollar for her. I'm not playing her even if she starts. Chrissy Tolliver and Ariel Atkins, 2 more Washington players. I said I want to get to more Washington players in this Washington and Vegas game. There are 2 more players that I have interest in. I have interest in both of them. They're both point guards. They both have good matchups against Vegas here today. I think I like Tolliver more for obvious reasons. She's just going to be getting probably more minutes in this game. She's more productive overall, but I still do have interest in Ariel Atkins. Jordan Canada, 7,500. The price point has come up, but she's still in a really favorable spot against Atlanta. Should be the starting point guard. Should be seeing over 30 minutes today. Tierra McCown and Isabel Harrison. I'll touch on them both at the same time. They both with no Azura Stevens today should both see probably above 25 minutes, if not closer each to 28 minutes. Tierra McCown is the much more friendly fantasy point per minute producer. They both have beneficial matchups today in terms of it's a Dallas team that is not terrible against the forward and center position, but they're not great. And Tierra McCown's more of a true center, so I have more interest in her at 7,500. But Harrison at 5,800 for a cheaper option is appealing. Rashonda Gray's price point is broken. She's 6,100 still. She's way too cheap. She gets a matchup today that's going to be more difficult, though. That's the issue. This is a matchup against Phoenix. This is why I don't have interest in Tina Charles for a top dollar price point. Is going to be very difficult today. Brittany Griner down there, you're going to have a lot of trouble. But 6,100 for a player who's been seeing 28 minutes, been all over the boards in terms of 10 plus in like two straight games. Rashonda Gray at 6,100 is still way, way too cheap and is like a top 5 value on the slate for me. Sammy Whitcomb at 5,600, just like Jordan Canada seeing more production, Sammy Whitcomb seeing more minutes with Jewel Lloyd out. So 5,600 is too cheap for a player who probably sees close to 30 minutes today and has a very beneficial matchup against Atlanta. Lalana Mitchell I have in yellow. Lalana Mitchell is my favorite play on the slate if for some reason Taurasi doesn't go today. She's 4,400. The price point just fell in half. It broke on her way too quickly. They shouldn't have been this aggressive. Even if Lalana Taurasi plays today, Lalana Mitchell should still see low to mid 20s in minutes, and that's enough for me to still be interested, but not as interested. Just keep in mind, this matchup against New York is the worst in the league, so it's going to be very beneficial for all the guards in Phoenix. Just the fact that there might be now 5 guards that have to split minutes: Essence Carsons, Lalana Mitchell, Brianne January, Dewana Bonner, and now Diana Taurasi, who was averaging 30 minutes per game last year and like 1.26 fantasy points per minute. That's a lot to be split up now. So keep in mind, if Taurasi is in, I'm probably just blowing up the whole situation, and I don't want any Phoenix guards. Lalana Mitchell would be the only one I would go to because she's still really cheap. If Taurasi is out, I have a lot of interest in Bonner and Lalana Mitchell. That's where I'm at right now. If you want my full projections, which means exactly how I'm projecting points tonight, the ones that I use in my cash games to build my tournament lineups, and that 30 other people are now using on Patreon, which I appreciate all of you, they're linked down below. Follow me on Twitter at SalVetri for updates on the WNBA and just other DFS things, and as well as my list for the WNBA. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate that before you leave. My name's Sal. Best of luck tonight, everybody. Peace out, gang.